Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Amma ba'd. فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. In the previous lesson, I began the topic of Tahara, purification. I mentioned that there are two types of Tahara. The first type is known as Tahara Sughra, which is wudu, and the second type is Tahara Kubra, which is the major bath ghusl. Tahara Sughra meaning the small Tahara, and Tahara Kubra meaning the big Tahara, which is the major bath ghusl. I also mentioned that in order for one to attain purification, he must remove all types of impurities. I mentioned that there are two famous types of impurities. The first type is Najasa Hukmiya, which refers to ritual impurity. And Najasa Hukmiya is such an impurity which does not have a color, smell or taste. There are two types: Hadath Asghar, which is the small minor ritual impurity, and Hadath Akbar, which is the major ritual impurity. Hadath Asghar refers to the state of that person who invalidated his wudu, and Hadath Akbar refers to the state of that person who is in need of performing ghusl, the major bath. And I also mentioned Tahara is a condition for the validity of the prayer. If one is not successful in attaining purification, Tahara, he will not benefit from the salah he prays. His salah will not be valid. In order for one to benefit from his salah, he must make sure that he is successful in attaining purification, Tahara. And the second type of impurity I mentioned was Najasa Haqiqiyya, physical impurity. Najasa Haqiqiyya is such an impurity which has a color, smell or taste, such as blood or feces. And I mentioned the different types of people who are known to be in the state of Hadath Akbar, which is the major ritual impurity. The first person is the one who experienced ejaculation due to lust, and the person who had intercourse, also the person who experienced a wet dream, and the lady who became pure from her menses and postnatal bleeding. All of these people, they fall in the category of major ritual impurity. They are known to be in the state of major ritual impurity, Hadath Akbar. And in order for these people to attain purification, they must perform ghusl, the major bath. And Hadath Asghar, which is the small minor ritual impurity, this refers to the state of that person who invalidated his wudu. For example, if one was in wudu, he prayed his salah. After he prayed his salah, he went to the toilet and urinated. We will say this person is now in the state of Hadath Asghar, small minor ritual impurity. And in order for him to attain purification, he must perform the small Tahara, Tahara Sughra, which refers to wudu ablution. And Najasa Hukmiya, another word for Najasa Hukmiya is Hadath, ritual impurity. Najasa Hukmiya is that impurity which does not have a color, smell or taste, but the Sharia has given the ruling that this person, he is impure. For example, one was in the state of wudu, he invalidated his wudu. Apparently, he may not have any physical impurity upon his body. His body may be clean, his arms may be clean, his face may be clean, but the Sharia has given the ruling, the hukum, that this person, he is impure. Yani invisible impurity appears on his four limbs. And when he performs wudu, the small Tahara, Tahara Sughra, he removes this invisible impurity. And this impurity is known as Najasa Hukmiya. Najasa Hukmiya, ritual impurity. Another word is Hadath. And there are two types: Hadath Asghar, which refers to small minor ritual impurity. This is the state of the person who invalidated his wudu. And the second type is hadath akbar, major ritual impurity. This refers to the state of that person who is in need of performing ghusl, the major bath. So if one went into the state of janaba, if one had intercourse, he went into the state of janaba, he is known to be in the state of hadath akbar, major ritual impurity. And the Sharia says that invisible impurity appears upon his body. This impurity is known as najasa hukmiyah. And when he does ghusl, when he performs ghusl, the major bath, he gets rid of this invisible impurity, najasa hukmiyah. And najasa haqiqiyah is that impurity which has a color, smell or taste, such as blood, feces, etc. And I mentioned that the one who intends to pray his salah, he must make sure that the place where he intends to pray, his clothing, his body, his clothing, and the place where he intends to pray must be free from all types of physical impurities. And he himself must be pure. This means that he must not be in the state of minor ritual impurity, hadath asghar, or the major ritual impurity, hadath akbar. So when one removes all types of ahdath is the jam'a plural of hadath. Ahdath means ritual impurities. When one removes all types of ritual impurities, ahdath, and when one removes all types of physical impurities from his clothing, from his body, and the place where he intends to pray, only then will we say he has attained purification. He has attained طهارة, and he has fulfilled the first condition which one needs to fulfill before he begins his salah, which is طهارة, purification.